to understand what there is to be done now to ensure that Ghana gets an IMF deal. The finance minister has said that we are likely to secure the deal in May, after we have managed to convince our external bondholders to agree to our debt restructuring. And so we'll work on the line and get Emmanuel back to have a conversation on Ghana's economy now. But let's do this story and then we'll come back. The Coalition for Digital Africa has initiated a project intended to strengthen the internet infrastructure across the continent. The project, undertaken in collaboration with the Association of African Universities, specifically focuses on email, website applications, and other communication platforms within Africa's higher education institutions.
To commend the project partners, Association of African Universities, and the Internet Corporation for assigning the numbers icon, for recognizing the need to focus on building the capacities of our higher institutions of learning to upgrade their websites and email systems so that information they carry can be accessed in various languages. It is my understanding that universal acceptance is a fundamental requirement for a truly multilingual and digitally inclusive internet. For our case in Ghana and Africa, universal acceptance and email address internationalization will ensure that our email mailbox names can use characters in local languages and scripts. I am glad to note that pertinent measures will be implemented under the AAU ICANN Universal Acceptance Projects to address these, among other key challenges in relation to making internet access more inclusive.
A person cannot take full advantage of the internet and all it offers if the content, addressing systems, communication modalities all occur in languages and contexts and culture which is totally foreign to them. Therefore, it's very laudable that work is being done in the areas of pushing universal acceptance and email address internationalization, as well as international domain names. The principle of universal acceptance, if adhered to, will lead to a truly multilingual internet, since it will mean that all internet-enabled applications, in particular, in any particular domain name space, will be able to process any domain name or domain name dependent text, including email addresses, regardless of script, length, or how new the email address is.
And so Finance Minister Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta has said that Ghana should expect an International Monetary Fund board approval by the close of May 2023. Financial assurance by bilateral creditors, which is the last hurdle, is expected to be completed this month for Ghana to be able to access the $3 billion credit facility. Emmanuel Dakwa joins me back on phone for a conversation on what's happening in Washington, D.C. Good afternoon to you once again, Emmanuel.
Good afternoon, Obote. Is it clear?
Right. I think this is better. So, to my earlier question, where we are, the discussions with the external bondholders, is that what we need to do, and then we get the IMF deal, or there is still more or other conditionalities to be met?
For me, I would say it will be the last one. Because if you look at the statement that when we secured the staff level agreement in December 2022, it was clear that two things need to happen. The first is debt restructuring, and debt restructuring will have domestic and external. Then there should be some structural reforms. And so we've seen semblance of what the government wants to do in terms of prior action before securing an IMF deal. But after the external creditors, the conversation with them, I think government should be able to signal in terms of structural reforms to let the creditors also, give their final approval before the board approval in maybe.
Right. So we are not likely to get this deal in May as we expect.
You see, this is not the first time that the government is giving an assurance of time that Ghana is going to get a bailout. And most of the things that government should have done even well before we get in here. And so it's dependent on how quick our creditors, especially the external creditors, how quick they're able to give us some relief in terms of debt restructuring for us to move to the board for a possible approval. And so for timelines, I think government should be able to for giving time. Because some of the things, it is not in the paving government. You are on the negotiation table and we're looking forward to, other parties accepting your position. So I think it is not the best thing to be giving timelines, but also more importantly is to do what you have to do, what Ghana has to do now, embark on some structural fiscal reforms and also look at how best you can restructure your external debt. Then you'll be able to secure a fund program. And I think that is what should be the focus now, rather than just giving deadlines.
Right. So the finance minister has said, or he has debunked allegations that there's not going to be a second round of domestic debt exchange, which is likely to affect pension funds. I mean, given the history of the finance ministry on some of these assurances, do you want to believe what the finance ministry has said?
It's difficult, but all that we know is that the domestic debt exchange program has been completed. Should there be another round of domestic debt exchange, then it means that government didn't get what it was expecting from the external side, hence they will be pushing for further cuts on the domestic side. But I think the domestic investors have already had their share of the cake. And I'm not sure that they should be a further burden because people have lost the money cuts on the domestic side. Government should focus on how they can get creditors on the external side to agree to some terms, whether principal, whether maturity. Let's make some savings on the other side. But more importantly, why is government reluctant on embarking on structural fiscal reforms? What haven't you said in the past in terms of prudent financial management? And I think this is what will be able to save us even beyond an IMF program. This is the 17th time Ghana is applying for a bill. So what has changed in the past 16 programs that government has, so I think the more, the more focus should be on how going into the future, even beyond an IMF program, what are some of the structural things? And we know our problems. The economy is not generating a lot of revenue. At the same time, expenditure is going high.
Right.
A lot of procurement breaches, corruption. We know all these problems, and the ball is in the court of government to embark on these structural fiscal reforms for us to avoid further bailout programs on the IMF.
Right. So, Emmanuel, finally, before you go, do you think that the government underestimated the complexity of the situation at hand? I mean, the demands of the bilateral creditors and external bondholders. Did the government take it for granted in the process?
It's all about the approach. In negotiations in public debt restructuring, it should be a approach, but not the other way around. As far back in August, it was clear that there was a possibility of we going into the debt restructuring. But the government was unwilling to open up of what was going to happen. And the government will look up one day to hear the announcement that this is what is going to happen. That is why we've seen a lot of agitations from all these stakeholders, including bankers, insurance, Securities and Exchange Commission, and then pensioners, as we know. And so it's all about the approach. Ghana is not the only country that has had debt restructuring. But what is the approach? It should be a bottom up. You don't, as a data impose your terms on it. That is why we saw about 5 deadline extensions. And so I think it's basically about the approach government used when government wanted to embark on debt restructuring.
Right. So, quick one. We are not likely to get a deal in May. Is that your position?
It's difficult to say a yes or no, but it's all dependent on how quick we get our external creditors. The biggest one being China. It's estimated that Ghana owes China about 1.5 to 1.7 billion, and other creditors are also on the external side. How soon can we get a deal with them for them to also take some level of haircut for the board of the IMF to look. So I think that is the most important thing. Once we're able to clear that hurdle, and I like the assurances from the MD of the IMF. It looks like Ghana is a poster child, and Ghana should not be allowed to fail. And so that is a good thing that is happening. But more importantly, how quick can we get the external creditors to agree on some terms for
right
approval from the IMF?
Thank you very much. Emmanuel Amoadakwa is an economist speaking to us there. Let's go to the Interbank gets the latest on how the city is performing against major trading currencies. At this point, when we return, Shelly Anand will take over with the rest of the news. Stay with us.
On GTV Breakfast. So what's your pleasure? Danvotras here at that time of the morning.
You want it served buffet style, complimentary breakfast?
On-site restaurant?
Or room service?
We've got you covered. From Monday to Friday at 6 a.m. with a trusted team. So never skip breakfast.
On GTV Breakfast.
It is a nightmare dealing with the filth in Accra. The gutters are choked with garbage. The streets are a jumble of filth. The beauty of the serene beaches is marred with human feces and plastics as many defecate in the open. Residents are up in arms when the situation gets out of hand.
Because of these litters, you can't even stand there for even a minute. As we speak here, if the mosquitoes even refuse to breathe on it.
Partners in sanitation suggest alternative policy interventions.
Landfilling is not the way forward. We are recommending treatment facilities.
But in all of this, have we made gains in the sector?
How can you have a people who have a lot of dignity and still practicing identification?
The task facing Ghana to achieve SDG Goal 6 on clean water and sanitation for all is Herculean and riddled with equally complicated hurdles. Join us every Thursday on Wash Hour from 4:05 p.m. to 5 p.m. as we seek to put these issues and more in perspective. Watch a repeat on Fridays from 1 to 2 p.m. and on Sundays 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. It is our duty to keep our surroundings clean and free from disease.
Welcome back to the news. The Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development has announced that this year's fishing close season will be observed between July and August, while canoe and inshore fishers would observe the close season between July 1 and 31. Industrial trawlers would observe it from July 1 to August 31. The sector minister, Madam Mavis Hawakumson, also announced that the ministry was engaging neighboring countries in the West Central Gulf of Guinea to implement the fishing close season at the same period. In other news, a two-day conference for all regional commanders of the Ghana Prison Service is underway in Accra. The conference is a platform for the officers to deliberate on the affairs of the service and develop sustainable strategies that will propel activities of the service in future. It is on the theme Pursuing Sustainable Strategies to Confront Emerging Challenges in the Ghana Prisons Service, the role of prison managers. At the opening ceremony on Thursday, the Interior Minister, Mr. Ambrose Derry, urged the service to adopt measures that will be more productive, self-sustaining and correction-oriented. The conference is an opportunity for the management body of the service and regional commanders to meet, brainstorm and discuss the current state of affairs of the Ghana Prison Service, review its activities and find ways to deal with its challenges. The commanders also discussed ways to enhance the use of ICT to ease the volume of paperwork and also adopt ways to generate funds. Other areas included improving staff welfare and deepening cooperation with civil society and strategic international partners. The Director General of the Ghana Prison Service is Mr. Isaac Kofieju.
The current administration is determined to find solutions to these challenges with the support of the entire prison staff. We have shown great resolve in our commitment to safeguarding the tenets upon which Ghana's enviable democracy rests by keeping consistent with the mandate of the service.
The Minister for the Interior, Mr. Ambrose Derry, commended the Director General of the Prisons and the Prisons Directorate for their immense contribution towards the well-being of officers and inmates. He asked the Prison Service to adopt modern-day management of prisons and correctional facilities to strive for professionalism.
Pursuing sustainable strategies to confront emerging challenges in the Ghana Prison Service. The role of prison managers, unquote, is out. Its relevance in contemporary times cannot be overemphasized. Looking at the state of our Ghana Prison Service, albeit improved.
The Prison Service commended some key partners, such as the Church of Pentecost, Glyco, and Zoom Lion, for their unmeasurable contribution in ensuring that the service achieves its mandate of ensuring safe custody, welfare and rehabilitation of prisoners. A periodical named Media and Communications Review magazine has been launched in Accra. Launched by a university academic, seasoned journalist and authority in media and communications, Professor Kwame Kakari. The magazine is to inform the public about current trends and developments in the media and communication field.
The launch of the magazine was on the theme Realigning Journalism Education for Communication magazine will be amplifying candid opinions of seasoned journalists or their perspectives on how the next generation of journalists should be developed or trained to deliver newsworthy content accurately. The guest speaker for the occasion, Professor Umaru Pate, who is also the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Kashe, Gombe in Nigeria, delivered a lecture on journalism education, pointing out some significant reforms in the redesigning of journalism curriculum in contemporary Nigeria.
You have one individual kind of media organizations on the internet. You have blogs, you have all sorts of platforms. Individuals become the reporters, he's the editor, he's the managing director, he's the all-in-all. And he will be competing with you. The owner of a bureaucratic media organization where you have employed people, you have to pay them salaries, you have to do this, you have to do that. This is one fellow. What is the way out? How do we equip our students to have the skills as well as the thought to be able to be competitive upon graduation?
The Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Professor Amin Al-Hassan, who doubles as the chairman of the editorial advisory board of the magazine, puts emphasis on media regulation in Ghana.
Way back in 1992, taught about the media, all the foundational ideas that defined their thinking have changed. Even the subsequent court rulings have changed, and the dynamics are not predictable. But through this journal, we will come together, share a few thoughts about how to make sense of the quick changes that characterizes the mediascape.
The Dean of Communication Studies of the Wisconsin University in Ghana, Professor Kwame Kakari, who is also a former Director General of GBC, is one of the brains behind the magazine.
The objective of the magazine is to discuss and inform the public about issues, developments, and all the important and relevant matters concerning media and communications. Students in communication studies, academics, lecturers and so on, researchers, practitioners, journalists, practitioners in public relations, in advertising, industry owners, legislators, people who are making laws in parliaments, regulators, who are people who are regulating these institutions, and the general public will also benefit from this kind of publication.
Companies and individuals in the Oti region engaged in the collection of recyclable materials will no longer travel to Accra and Tema for processing. This is because the first ever waste recycling plant for the region is about 99% complete and will soon start work. Known as the Integrated Recycling and Composite Plant, it is an initiative of Zoom Lion Ghana Limited, one of the country's waste management companies. Peg Donko reports.
Here is a typical waste dumping site at Dambai in the Oti regional capital, a situation similar to most communities across the country. This method, experts say, leads to environmental pollution and degrading of lands, as decomposing of plastics takes years and sometimes ages. Again, land acquisition for this purpose is becoming a challenge daily.
This machine here is called the sorting primary cabin. This is the sorting primary cabin. Yes. So this is where some level of manual sorting take place.
The end product to be churned out from this plant will be organic compost for agronomic purposes. Other recoverable materials from here include plastics and scrap metals, which will serve as input materials for the steel and plastic manufacturing sectors. Waste management in the country is one of the Herculean tasks for most municipal, metropolitan and district assemblies. Dambai's integrated recycling and compost plant, when complete, is expected to receive, sort, process and recycle solid waste from all 9 districts within the Oti region.
I urge the people of Dambai and Oti region as large that they should help us get a lot of waste products to process and run the machine daily so that the production will not be cut off along the line.
With a 300-ton capacity on a 24-hour shift, it has a daily maximum of 600,000 waste production based on availability of waste. The Dambai plant will have a workforce of 45. Peggy Amadonko, GBC News, Dambai, Oti region.
You're still watching News Hour live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. Civil society organizations led by Ghana NCD Alliance have hailed the imposition of taxes on sugar-sweetened beverages to raise revenue for health financing in the country. The tax would also help in reducing the consumption of the products, which would eventually improve the health outcomes of the citizens. The organizations say Ghana, like most African countries, were experiencing consistent increase in obesity and nutrition-related non-communicable diseases, with the rampant availability of sugar-sweetened beverages on the Ghanaian market. The acting program manager, NCD, GHS, and a public health specialist, Dr. Ifwa Komi, has been speaking to GBC News on this issue.
The idea is that once taxes are introduced, it will help to increase prices. And by doing that, there will be less demand, and then the purchases would also go down. It's sort of a population-wide measure that is meant to sort of make it unattractive for people to purchase sugary drinks, be them canned drinks, fruit juices, flavored milk, all kinds of it. So it's a very good concept as a means of ensuring that these non-communicable diseases that are on the rise globally are brought to a halt. Now, it's not just even for diabetes. Diabetes is key amongst them, but things like obesity in school children, things like dental cavities, and general weight gain are all brought on as a result of these sugar-sweetened beverages. And when it goes on for a while, it actually progresses to heart diseases, strokes, and even some types of cancer. So taxing them is a really good concept that I believe that Ghana should also pursue. Everybody wants to be healthy. That's why the education is important. People need to appreciate why taxes are being put on a product, and they need to understand the potential health damage that it can cause for their children and even for the adults. Now, these fizzy drinks are currently, they're extremely common. Almost every other shop in town is either selling one or two other fizzy drinks, and that makes it readily available. And once it is readily available, it's going to be attractive to somebody to purchase. However, these are also the products that we are seeing are causing a lot of harmful effects on our health. And even it's translating into effects in our children. Childhood obesity is on the rise. Even type 2 diabetes that used to happen as you grow in much older people is now happening in children. So it's important that the sensitization goes down and people can appreciate that. Even though these drinks are readily available, my continuously consuming them is going to have an impact on my health. The fact that I could get diabetes, I could have disease or stroke at a very young age, and the implications of these conditions are such that you won't take it as an only option. There are clear-cut laws against some of these activities sort of border on even criminality. So it's important that we as a community decide that we are prioritizing our health. And then beyond that, for anybody who sort of introduces anything that will adversely affect our health, we would ensure that the full judicial arm of the law takes its course, it's important. Otherwise, the products will continue to find themselves on our market. And for people who actually want to consume local drinks, for instance, you might end up exposing them. Now, this brings back the concept of, for instance, local backyard garden. It's important that we cultivate the habit, even if it's a small pot in the
News are live on GBC News. Government has awarded the road linking Seshire East District and the Kumewu District in the Ashanti region on contract. It is to facilitate movement of goods and people to and from the two districts. 5 kilometers of internal roads within Kumewu are also to be worked on to improve the road network in the district capital. The Minister for Roads and Highways, Mr. Kwesi Amoakwata, who announced this at Kumewu, assured the chiefs and people of the area that the NPP government would not betray their trust in the party. We apologize for the loss in sound. We'll bring you that full story in our subsequent bulletins. Caritas Ghana, a charity organization of the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference, has launched a project known as Support Service for Migrants and Refugees in Transit, SMART. The project aims to offer humanitarian assistance and reintegration support for returned migrants and refugees in Ghana. It is also to curtail irregular migration from Ghana to the Western world through social and behavioral change communication activities in various communities by 2025.
Migration has economic and social development importance internationally and is now widely recognized as a key to poverty reduction, especially in developing countries such as Ghana. In spite of that, migration has also posed significant challenges to Ghana's development agenda. Unavailability of reliable and up-to-date data makes it difficult to integrate migration into development planning processes. The project coordinator of the Support Service for Migrants and Refugees in Transit, SMART, Reverend Sister Regina Ignatia Afla, spoke about those to benefit from the SMART project.
We are presently exploring partnership supports from development partners within and outside the country. This project framework will target 800,000 direct beneficiaries and over 145,000 indirect beneficiaries through different medium and interventions.
The Assistant Commissioner of Immigration, Mr. Isaac Ganza, said the service is committed to the effectiveness of migration to ensure a safe, orderly, regular and responsible migration. Mrs. Clara Kasati is a board member of Caritas Ghana.
Caritas Ghana is a product of the Catholic Bishops' Conference, but it doesn't work with only the Christian faith. It works with interfaith organizations as well. So it works with the representatives from the Chief Imam's Office, representatives from the Ahmadiyya Mission, different faiths, state entities, civil society, and state actors like the Ghana Immigration Service to bring together support services that these returned migrants as well as refugees may need.
Caritas Ghana is a member of the Global Caritas Confederation and operates under the National Catholic Secretariat.
Defense has inaugurated a 4-story accommodation block for officers of the 6th Battalion of Infantry at Kamina Barracks in Tamale. The Minister for Defense, Mr. Dominic Nitiwu, expressed government's determination to ensure that all soldiers are housed within their designated barracks.